All right, welcome to Industry Hour. My name is Bulos Abdallah. You might know me as the advisor for mechanical engineers and for materials engineers. Today's topic is mechanical engineering at RPI. Let's jump in. So, real quick, what are we going to be talking about today? First couple of minutes, I'm just going to be giving you a spiel from the Career Center on campus, and we'll talk really quickly, really briefly. I think I only have one slide on salary information and a couple of slides on potential employers that you can potentially be working for or with as a mechanical engineering, whether it's through an internship or a co-op or as a full-time job after you graduate from RPI. We've got two wonderful alumni and a student that are going to be joining us. I am not going to take the spotlight from them. I'll have them introduce themselves in a couple of moments when we do our formal interview um, and panel. And then we can get into a Q&A session at the very end if you have any questions at all. So let's jump right into it. Who is your career counselor as a mechanical engineer? Actually, as any engineering major at RPI, your career counselor is always going to be Kristen Kettering. A bit of a background on her is she was actually my guidance counselor in high school. I have to force myself to call her Kristen. Otherwise, I know her as Miss Kettering. She's awesome. She's wonderful. She knows her stuff really well. She's very supportive. She is very well connected on and off campus. So if you're not really sure where mechanical engineering can potentially take you in the future, see if you can connect with Kristen and make an appointment with her so she can coach you up on that a little bit. How do you make appointments with Kristen? First off, you're going to need to create a Handshake account, and the website is rpi.joinhandshake.com. What can you do with Kristen? As I said, she'll coach you on preparing your career and getting your career lifted or started. But it's more than just career stuff. I mean, she can sit down with you and go over your resume. She can show you how to strengthen it, how to really buff it up and polish it and make it look really nice for potential recruiters that you're going to be meeting with or employers. They do drop-ins every day from 1 to 3. You can just show right up. The worst thing that can happen is they kick you out and they make you schedule an appointment because they're too busy. You never know unless if you get yourself out there. So please get in their office sooner rather than later, and get in there often if you can. They host a number of different kinds of workshops, whether it's resume critiques where they bring recruiters in and they critique your resume, whether they bring employers in and they talk a little bit about their companies and their opportunities. They are active online, they are active offline as well. Obviously, they have an office on campus, but they're also available to be reached at via Discord or WebEx. You can also email them anytime you would like to. And then also, there's two career fairs at RPI that happen every year, one in each semester, one in the fall, one in the spring. If for whatever reason you're traveling from a very large distance away and you forgot your tie, or if you needed a pair of shoes or whatever, they have a clothing closet that they maintain. So feel free to pop in there and grab whatever you need that you can keep. I think they want shoes to be returned, but everything else you can keep. So it's really cool. On the right-hand side of the slide, they have a couple of different websites and resources that you could use. CareerShift is one of my favorite. It's a web crawler. It finds thousands and thousands of job opportunities, whether they're internships, co-ops, or full-time jobs. It scales the web and pulls back exactly what you're searching for. So using the advanced search feature in CareerShift is going to be very important. But if you're not really sure how to use that, get with Kristen Kettering today if you can, or tomorrow. But the point is, get with Kristen as soon as you can so you can kind of figure out how you can navigate looking for an opportunity. Kristen can sit down with you and do mock interviews to get you really prepared for that interview if you're really dreading it or if you're really nervous about that. Focus 2 is a website that will show you what's a good fit and what's not a good fit based off of your interests. So there's some really good resources there, and a lot of them are usually not used until you're a senior. So really don't want that to be a thing. My goal is to try to get as many freshmen into the Career Center as possible so they know and understand how that game works. That way, when it's time, you know exactly what to do. You feel prepared, you feel confident, and you're ready to go. Some internships and co-op employers and full-time employers, some of the big ones are on here, obviously Lockheed Martin, NASA, Epic, Global Foundries. Regeneron is also on there too. There's a lot of big companies that routinely recruit at RPI, and this isn't even a small percentage of the full list. I would encourage you to get on our website, figure out who has recruited before in the past, get to know these companies a little bit, figure out who the recruiters are. CCPD has those connections. So if you're not really sure on where to start, like I said, get with Kristen, and you're not really going to know how far you can go unless if you can shoot your shot and give it a try. A lot of our students also go into graduate schools. We do have the 4+1 accelerated master's program here, but it might not be the right fit for everybody where you can graduate in 5 years with a bachelor's and a master's degree. A lot of our folks usually transfer schools to earn a graduate degree at another school. And again, there's a very small list. I kind of picked out some of the more popular ones, obviously, but there's a huge list of other schools that have accepted our students before in the past to earn their graduate degrees or their doctorate degrees. The average salary reported from the class of 2022 from a couple of years ago was about 76,000 per year, and it fluctuates between 56 and 120,000. I would get again the theme of this early in this conversation is to get with Kristen and get in the specific details if you need it. But this is just kind of like a basic overview of what you can expect to be paid as a mechanical engineer. And you can kind of see the breakdown of all the other majors and how mechanical engineering stacks up against the other engineering majors. But if you're looking for more additional information for other majors outside of the School of Engineering, if you're thinking about potentially switching your major to, let's say, computer science or mathematics, like you can get that information very easily on the CCPD website. All right, that's all I've got for you today in terms of a PowerPoint presentation. Let's get into the real reason why we're here. So the superstars of the panel today are Catherine Titus. We also have John Ashcroft and Luke Legacy joining us. Katie, I'm going to pick on you first real quick, and then we can go, Luke, you go second, John, you go third. Basic, introduction. Tell me a little bit about who you are. Katie, what you're studying. John, Luke, what did you study when you were at RPI? Where are you currently living and what you're currently doing? So, Katie, go.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Katie. Right now I'm studying mechanical and aerospace engineering, doing the dual major. Currently I'm on my away semester, so I'm doing research at RPI, which is really nice because I was able to get an apartment really close to campus, which is where I'm living right now. But I'm actually from just outside of Schenectady, which is like 30 minutes away from here. Um, so it's nice to be able to go home when I want to.
Thank you, Luke.
Thanks, Poulos. My name is Luke. I work at the Naval Nuclear Laboratory in Schenectady. I'm originally from the central Connecticut area, and I moved up to, upstate New York to go to RPI, and then stayed in the area after I graduated because I got the job over at NNL. At RPI, I studied mechanical and aerospace engineering, just like Katie. Graduated back in 2015. So I've been at NNL for about 10 years now.
Thanks, Luke. John, what about you?
Well, I'm John Ashcroft. I've actually been working here at NNL with Luke. I've been here for about 35 years, a little over 35 years. And so I actually got both master's degree and PhD degrees at RPI. My master's was in aeronautical engineering. My PhD was in mechanical engineering. So seem to have a lot in common tonight, and in terms of degree fields. I've been working here for most of my career in different engineering roles, and now in management roles throughout that time. So maybe I'll give you the experience point of view.
So, John, while you're the one that's the most experienced here, can you tell us a little bit about why you decided to study what you studied when you were at RPI, and what has been your favorite thing about being an engineer so far?
Well, I came to work at NNL because of RPI, and because RPI was right nearby, 20 miles or so away, and so I had an option of, I did my undergraduate work at Clarkson, and so I had an opportunity to come to RPI and work at CAPL at the time. Now it's been renamed as the Naval Nuclear Laboratory. But I really came to work here because RPI was nearby and I could get an advanced degree while I worked here. So I think over the course of my career, this thing that sort of kept me interested in mechanical engineering is sort of the integration and interaction. So because mechanical engineers are broadly trained and over a range of disciplines, energy and mechanics, etc., they end up being in the roles of the integrator if you're working on a team with other engineers and scientists. And so I like that integration role, being able to see the big picture and how all the pieces fit together. And that also sort of drives a lot of interaction amongst that team. We don't have a lot of engineers that sit at their desk all day long and can get their job done by themselves. It's really integrated into teams and working with your teams and the interactions with those teams on the technical direction that I find most interesting.
Thank you, John. Luke, I'm going to point the question back at you. So, why did you specifically pick engineering, and what's been your favorite thing about being a mechanical engineer so far?
Thanks. Yeah, I was inspired to take on engineering. I think back when I was in middle school, there was a presentation one of the scout leaders in my Boy Scout troop at the time gave on his job. He was a civil engineer. It seemed really tangible to me at the time, something that felt realistic to go and achieve and lined up with my interests school-wise. I was always interested in the science and math aspects of that. So kind of decided at that point, let me focus my attention on some kind of engineering. And then eventually through the college application process, as John mentioned, there's a lot of breadth available for mechanical engineers, and that really appealed to me. I didn't want to get too pigeonholed, and so choosing mechanical engineering as part of my dual major was a key component of that choice. And I just really have to reinforce what John said about the integration aspect. The group I joined, which I'm now the manager of that group at NNL, is one of the primary integrating roles at the lab. We work daily with everyone from electrical engineers, other mechanical engineers, materials engineers, manufacturing engineers, computer scientists, programmers, the whole spectrum of engineers out there, and bring it all together into one discipline. And honestly, that is the most exciting part of my job, is being able to take that step back, look at things at the high level, see how it all fits together, and then make really concise, clear, technically sound recommendations.
Yeah, that's so cool that you can integrate all of those different disciplines and make it work on one team. That's very fascinating to be a part of. Katie, let's shift the question back to you. So you're a junior now, correct?
Mhm.
So if you can think back, why mechanical engineering, why aero, and what's been your favorite part about being an engineer or studying engineering so far today?
Yeah, so the reason I chose engineering mainly is because my dad's an engineer. He's a civil engineer, and back in like middle school, I knew like I was good at math and science. I thought engineering was interesting. Everyone kind of always told me I had the mind of an engineer. And at first I was like, I'll do civil engineering because that's what my dad does. And then I realized I don't want to do civil engineering. And I kind of bounced back and forth between a lot of the different disciplines like chemical engineering, biomedical. And then I realized, I really like building things and I really like space. So I decided to start with mechanical, see where that takes me. And then I realized RPI offers the dual major with aerospace degree as well. And I thought that was really interesting. And I realized I wanted to focus more on the space industry too. So adding that on to, because I had already taken a class or two that applied to the mechanical engineering degree. So I decided, why not just stick with it and then add the aerospace on too, because that's what I really want to focus on. And I think my favorite thing so far is there's so, honestly, being at RPI, there are so many different people here, and meeting all the different people and meeting the different people who study different engineerings and seeing what they're doing and seeing how we can work together with different things has been really interesting and really inspiring to see.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Katie. I'm gonna keep the spotlight shining on you here for this next question. So you're currently on an away semester for your arch, correct? And you're doing some
Mhm.
research. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing and how you specifically planned to do that opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now I'm working with Dr. Pogoreliuk with his CubeSat platform research. So he's working with space telescopes and like designing a space telescope that is um, made with these different smaller satellites to be able to make like a bigger space telescope to get better pictures. That's like the basics of it. Right now I'm working on a smaller project within his project that is figuring out these different accelerometers and understanding how they work and how accurate they actually are because his project needs to be as accurate as possible since these satellites are just connected through lasers. So they have to be able to be super accurate and you need to know where they are in relative to each other and they're moving around in space and they might be moving fast or slow. So it's been really interesting because as an aeromech, I don't do many things with electrical or computer systems engineering. So having this project has really challenged me and pushed me to go outside of my comfort zone of the engineering that I chose. But it's been really interesting, and I've met some other people that have helped me out a lot. Um, and so I'm actually really enjoying what I'm doing because it is very different than what I have been doing. Um, how I prepared for it, my roommate last year, she is also doing research with this professor. So I heard about him through her and I reached out to him and said, I think your research is super interesting. And I read some of his papers and I talked about what he was doing to him. And he gave me some different options of what I wanted to work on. And I read some more of his papers that he sent me that were more specific to what he wanted me to work on. I read into the different accelerometers he had and kind of just gave myself a basic understanding of what I was going to be doing so I wasn't just going in blind.
Very cool. Thank you. Thank you. Luke, John, Luke, I'll have you go first. We'll just kind of do a snake around here. So, if you could think back to when you were a student, did you know what you wanted to do in life after RPI? And if you could tell us a little bit about that time and what your experience was when you were thinking about that. How did it go? What did you do?
Thanks. Katie's story actually reminded me that one of my summers at RPI, I stuck around, I stayed on campus. I also did a summer as a research assistant for one of the labs. We were working on like an advanced cooling system for buildings that was based on like time of day use. And so as the sun rose and building would get hotter, it would increase the cooling load. And then at night when things were cooler, it would automatically decrease the cooling load to supply to the building. But that I had the same experience as Katie in that being an aeromech, I was focused very much on thermodynamics and fluid mechanics, but that gave me exposure to the complex nature of actually building a real system and how it relates to electrical engineering and computer science and being able to put everything together in a coherent way. So that was really eye-opening. It also showed me that I didn't really have a good perspective when I started at RPI of what of how everything fits together and what skills I would need to later go on and be effective in my job. So I definitely learned that through my time at RPI, whether that was through the research assistantship or through some of my coursework. And then as far as what I wanted to do after RPI, like I said, I grew up in central Connecticut. I was maybe 3 miles from the Pratt & Whitney headquarters at the time. And for the longest time, I thought, I'm an aeromech. I'm going to go and design jet engines once I finish school. But once I got to the fall career fair and I was talking with a bunch of different employers, I happened to stop by the NNL table and had a really good conversation with one of the folks that was recruiting there. That turned into applying on the website, eventually getting an interview, and through the conversation that I had in that interview, really made me much more interested in coming to work for NNL. So totally different than what I thought I was going to do when I started at RPI. So it was a bit of a process of discovery and learning.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing. John, same question goes to you. Did you know what you wanted to do in life after RPI, and can you walk us through your experience and your journey during that time?
Yeah, so as I said, I went to undergraduate at Clarkson, and I went there expecting to work on robotics. And I went there for 4 years, and I never took a class in robotics. I found that energy sciences, thermodynamics and heat transfer and fluid flow, I took all the classes in those subjects, and I liked them so much that I kind of switched from what I expected to do, when I came out of high school to what I ended up doing. And then I came here and pursued advanced degrees in those subjects at RPI. So I guess the lesson learned is what you think you want to do when you're in high school or as a freshman in college, have an open mind about it, because it's likely to change.
For sure, thank you. John, can you tell us a little bit about what your day typically looks like for you, and just your day-to-day operations? Do you have any sort of like checklist, to-do list? How does that work? How does that function for you?
Right now, I'm in charge of the new design and development for new classes of reactor plants. So we do that work on behalf of the U.S. and then interact with our UK and Australian partners as well. And so to be honest, I'm in meetings a lot, but they're technical meetings. We're talking about the issues of extending the capabilities of our reactor plants to the next generation, and then working with our industrial partners to help them. They have much smaller programs, so help them sort of pull along their technology based on what we've learned. So lots of technical meetings, lots of interaction with the engineers and scientists who are doing the actual work here, and making sure that those pieces are fitting together. We spend a lot of our time talking with our shipyards and with our naval customers as well to integrate our reactor plant into the ships.
Thank you. Luke, would you say you're in as many meetings as John is as well, since you're managing a team, or how would you say your days?
I don't know if it's as many meetings as John, but I think he covered the management perspective pretty well, where it's a lot of communication and a big focus for me on coaching the folks on my team. But if I rewind a year and think back to what I was doing when I was still an engineer, there's a broad spectrum of things. My group and groups like mine focus on evaluating the heat generation capability of our reactor cores, basically. And so to do that, there's a complex system that we have to evaluate. And so part of the job is understanding the system and how it's established, understanding the reactors and how they're designed. So there's some element of research and understanding how things been done in the past, how should we do things going forward, establishing assumptions for our analysis. We use a couple simulation tools to perform the complex engineering math instead of doing it by hand. So establishing the assumptions that set up those evaluations using those tools, actually executing those programs to calculate the results, and then eventually post-processing the results. That's generally what the day-to-day is for someone in my group.
Got it. Thank you so much for sharing. Katie, any small little details that you want to include and share with us, what you do on a day-to-day basis at your research opportunity currently?
Yeah, so my research is very loosey-goosey. My professor's kind of letting me do what I need to do and just get it done in the time that I can get it done. Um, I can work a max of like 40 hours a week, so I've been kind of giving myself a time and saying I'm going to work from 9 to 5, and that's been really helpful because I think if I didn't do that, then I might work super late or like do weird hours, and I don't really want to do that because I want to make it seem like I'm in a job and doing like job things because a lot of my research is from home right now too. So I don't want to like get in a weird um, way of working that doesn't like line up with what it might actually be like in the workforce. Um, but I give myself like a to-do list, and Google Calendar is my best friend. And I use that all the time and put all of my little things on there to make sure I get everything ready and everything done.
Awesome. So you're staying organized, staying on top of your stuff, basically. So I love that. And this question can be for anybody. I'd love to hear your input. So I'm just interested in gaining some perspective or navigating the mechanical engineering industry, which has traditionally been male dominated. So, for those who identify as women or anyone considering a career in mechanical engineering, um, John, I guess I'll pick on you first, just because of your experience and how many years you've been in the job. But do you have any advice or experiences that you'd be willing to share to help anyone who is considering a career in this industry?
Well, I'm kind of sympathetic to this question. We sort of track this data, and we got a lot of mechanical engineers, so a good database, and our female engineers sort of reflect the graduate pool from United States, which is somewhere between 15 and 20% female. Other engineering disciplines like chemical engineering or materials engineering are considerably higher than that. They're like 35%. I don't really know why that is. I don't. So I would like to try to balance that out, and maybe that's a misperception of exactly what mechanical engineers do on a day-to-day basis. Maybe there's a view that it's more hands-on or less hands-on or whatever it may be. But I do think that there's certainly a misperception that other engineering disciplines or other science disciplines are more attractive. And so I'll ask Katie why she thinks that is.
Yeah, Katie, can we put you on the spot?
Yeah, so I've asked myself this question a lot. I mean, applying to schools, I look at like the different ratios of different things, and RPI is a big, it's 70-30 right now, I believe. And I've definitely noticed in a lot of my mechanical classes that there are more men than there are women. And I I don't know really the answer to that either. I think like for me, I chose this degree because I think I don't know. Like like I said before, I went through a bunch of different engineering disciplines and I, you know, worked through a lot of them, and chemical and biomedical were on my list. But I think for me, maybe it's because my dad's an engineer too, and he kind of showed me a lot of these different things of the more hands-on sides of things that I found mechanical and aerospace to be more interesting. Um, yeah, I think maybe chemical and material and stuff, it's more of it's more sciencey, so it might be like less like working like hands-on, like in like machines and stuff. That might be it. But I've been asking myself the same question.
Luke, just curious to know what your perspective is, and if you had a comment that you wanted to share or anything.
I was thinking about it from the perspective of inspiring the next generation. So you've heard from a couple of us today that we heard early in our lives, whether that's middle school or high school, hey, there's an opportunity out there, and it happens to line up with your interests. And I wonder if there's more opportunities like that, that we can highlight mechanical engineering and how it's used throughout the world to a broader audience, or make it more engaging that way. I know one of the things that NNL participates in is the local Seepurge competition, which occasionally is hosted at RPI, and that seems to really reach out to the young crowd in a meaningful and engaging way. And I wonder if there's just more of that we can do, or if there's different ways that we can reach out to younger kids to show that there's opportunity and things are attainable. And it's really an interesting field to get into.
Thank you guys for sharing. Katie, I'm going to pick on you for the next question here, and I'm going to pivot to, I guess, on campus, activities, life, that sort of thing. Can you tell us a little bit about any sort of involvements that you are involved in? So like clubs,
Mhm.
organizations, anything like that you want to highlight for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, going off of what Luke said, I'm in engineering ambassadors, which our main goal is to spread engineering to younger audiences, K through 12. We go to different schools in the area and we talk about engineering and different engineering disciplines. And I think that's one of like the biggest ways that I'm helping out with that kind of initiative of showing that engineering is a very interesting field to go into. And I think engineering ambassadors is around like the whole country, so I think that that is hopefully, fingers crossed, helping. um, but that's the main club that I'm in. I'm also in the pep band, so I go to a lot of different sports games, mainly hockey, of course. But music has always been like a big part of my life, so I made sure that the schools I applied to had some sort of music program, specifically a pep band, because I was in pep band in high school, and I think it's just super fun, and it's a really great way to meet new people and get a lot of socialization and go to sports games for free, which is also pretty nice. Um,
That is pretty cool.
yeah.
Did you ever dress up as Puckman for those games? Is that something that band people do, or not really?
No, that's usually I think they usually have like specific people who dress up as Puckman, but maybe one day.
Gotcha. Luke and John, so from the perspective of a hiring manager, are those sorts of things that you would like to see highlighted on a resume? So clubs such as Pep Band, such as engineering ambassadors, just things like that. What sort of elements are you sort of looking for on a resume that are related to campus life and things like that?
I'm certainly interested in understanding who my candidates are as people. And so each of these extracurricular activities and within curricular activities are part of building that picture for me of who you are. It helps me understand what you're going to be like to work with on a day-to-day basis. It helps me understand your thought processes, how you solve problems, how you approach your life, and it really helps me envision each candidate in the role, which is really helpful for helping me make the ultimate decision on who I can offer the job to. So yeah, absolutely. Would love to see things like this on your resume, incorporate stories into interviews and things like that.
John, I'm curious to know what your perspective is, just because you've been in the game for such a long time already, and you're probably hiring folks that aren't straight out of college. But what sort of involvements or what sort of items are you looking for on their resumes, and what sort of things can some of the younger generations look forward to getting involved in that can get them noticed a little bit more at your level?
Well, I agree with Luke. We're hiring the whole person, not just the engineer, and we need engineers who can interact with one another, who can interact with non-engineers, who can interact with their manager and their customers. And so all of those activities which cause you to be able to plan, be able to lead, be able to communicate are every bit as important as, you know, your transcript.
All right, thanks, guys. John and Luke, I'll pick on you again here for this next question. So every so often we get students that'll ask us if any of the courses that they're currently taking or the courses that are required for their major are actually used in the workplace as an engineer. Do you find that to be true? And if you can elaborate on a little bit of some of the skills that you picked up while you were at RPI that you're still currently using today as a professional.
I guess I will say, like I said, I've been here 35 years. I've been a manager for 27 of those 35 years. On my shelf are my undergraduate textbooks. So I open my heat transfer textbook probably once a month, and my thermodynamics textbook probably more frequently than that, to look up the sort of fundamentals to understand what we're talking about. Now, I don't know that my peers at my range of experience are doing that, but that's why I became an engineer, so I make sure I stay connected to the engineering work and the principles that it's based on. I can say I open my undergraduate texts a lot more than I do my graduate texts. So.
And Luke, what about you? John, you probably got some students that are dreading thermo exams that are coming up soon and possibly think about keeping their textbooks. But that's really good insight. Thank you, John. But Luke, how do you approach how would you approach this question?
I'll echo what John said. So I mentioned earlier that one of my group's responsibilities is calculating heat generation in our reactors. And so Q equals MC delta T is a really handy equation to keep in the back of your mind. And I also mentioned we use some software tools that go and calculate things in a much more complicated way, but to be able to use a quick hand check of Q equals MC delta T before you go and run your analysis, and then after you run your analysis, make sure that what we actually calculate makes sense at a high level. These things are like absolutely crucial in self-checking your own work, making sure that you understand what's going on, giving a quick feel for anything new and different instead of running a really complicated tool. If you want to test out a new idea, well, go ahead and get a little bit more detailed than Q equals MC delta T, add a little bit more complexity to that by hand, and you'll be able to quickly evaluate whether or not what you're looking at or thinking about really makes sense. So it is super handy. I don't pull my textbooks down as much as John, but yeah, keeping those tools right in your back pocket is super helpful.
Awesome. Katie, I'm going to pivot here a little bit for our next question. If you can tell us what your pathway is, and if you could tell us some of your favorite classes that are not engineering courses.
Yeah, absolutely. So my pathway is creative writing and literature, which is a bit different than what I'm currently studying, but I think it's really important to take classes that aren't always, engineering or math and science based because like doing things that are outside of that are going to help you a lot, especially with writing, because I think writing is really important. And yeah, I'm doing creative writing, but there's a lot of similar aspects between creative and professional writing. And it's also just a fun way to get a break from some of the more difficult classes that you might be taking. Over the summer, I took an intro to creative writing class that was super fun. And I got to read what other people are writing. I got to share my own writing with people. And I think writing groups like that too are also really fun to be a part of because writing is very like close to your heart, and sharing that with other people and being able to read what they're writing as well is really very fun collaborative thing to be a part of. Um, so yeah, definitely try to take classes that are maybe a bit outside of what you're studying to, make yourself more rounded and to get a break from, those thermodynamics exams that might be a little tiring at times.
So if anybody's watching and John, Luke, if you're not really sure what a pathway is at RPI, every student has to take 20 credits worth of humanities, arts, and social sciences class, or PAS for short. Um, three of those five classes have to be a part of a pathway. So things like creative writing, things like history or philosophy or well-being. So with that being said, can you think back to when you were a student at RPI? Did you take any sort of courses that weren't related to engineering? And if so, what were some of your favorite ones? Maybe some of your not so favorite ones, but just curious to know what your thoughts are. And Luke, I'll point that direction to you first.
Great. I took, so when I was at RPI, we had one communication intensive course requirement as part of our degree field. It wasn't as cohesive as the pathways you described, but we had one course that we were required to take. The communication intensive course that I took was called Utopian Literature, and I absolutely loved it. It was like Katie said, a creative break from all of the engineering calculations. And the thing that really sticks out to me was the writing assignments, right? So if I think back to all the engineering classes, there's a lot of math, and it's usually lots of numbers, right? And the word count from high school to college dropped off for me. So going and taking that Utopian Literature class, there was writing assignments again, and it really forced me to think about how do I communicate what's going on in my brain, right? How do I write it in a way that someone else can understand it? And John already mentioned this, so I know I'm sounding a bit like a broken record now, but being able to communicate with others and report the results of your studies and be able to have productive conversations about complex engineering topics is one of the key skills once you graduate. And so having that course, being able to work on my writing when I was in college, I think really helped set me up for where I am today.
Great, thank you. John, same question. Any sort of courses that you remember that you took while you were a student at RPI that weren't engineering related, and what was your experience like during those courses?
Well, as an undergraduate, I took classes, short fiction, and I also took economics classes, which I think is obviously a little bit more scientific than a fiction writing class, but I think that sort of tangential knowledge is also very useful to you as you progress in your career. So
Excellent.
It's been a while since I remember the details of those, but.
No, that's okay. Do you remember any particular engineering courses that still stuck with you today? Any ones that were particularly challenging or things maybe you had a really good or a really bad experience with? Just curious to know if you did have any of those challenges, what sort of tactics did you deploy to get over those hurdles, if you had any?
I always, I don't think I had challenges with the classes I did take. I always wish I had taken more. So material science, mechanics, vibrations, a bunch of things that I feel like I don't know enough about to do my technical job today. So no, I don't know that there was a problem with what I did take. It was more a problem with what was missing.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. And a lot of times people will approach me and want to take additional classes, and I kind of have to try to walk them back a little bit. Just that remember we're working with first year students, and a lot of times in their first semester, everybody wants to do everything all at the same time. So it's my job to kind of keep them a little bit more grounded and kind of get their skills.
Yeah, I think that, you know, as an undergraduate, you should be learning, but also learning how to learn, because it's going to be a lifelong endeavor.
And Luke, what about for you back when you were a student? Any particular challenges or challenging courses that you remember? And if you could tell us a little bit about that experience, what was that like for you?
Some of the higher level engineering courses, so I'm trying to think of course names, but none are coming to mind. But things like where you got into trying to solve Navier-Stokes equations with partial differential equations, like some of the higher level math was a struggle for me. One of the key things that I found really helpful was I roomed with a bunch of guys that were in the same major, and we were taking the same classes right around the same time, and so we would be able to get together and work through a problem set on evenings and weekends, right? And so having the community around me to be able to like speak out loud and share my thoughts on how to approach a problem and then get their perspectives on it and see what I was missing was really useful to me, because it helps me work through how do I naturally default to approaching a problem, and then how do other people do that, and how can I learn from how they approach it so that I can do my next round even better? How can I incorporate what they do into my own process?
Cool. Thanks, guys, for sharing. And Katie, I see you nodding your head too at a couple of courses that they listed off. And can you tell us a little bit about any sort of challenges that you've come across, and how were you able to get over those challenges? And maybe highlight a course or two that maybe you didn't like, or maybe a course that you're wishing that you never took or never thought of taking ever before. But tell us a little bit about your experience if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was nodding along a lot with what Luke was saying about taking classes with people that you know. I think that's like the biggest thing that has helped me a lot, especially over the summer. Because over the summer it was a shortened semester, so only had 12 weeks, and I was taking some more of like the aerospace focused classes like aerodynamics and aerospace structures and materials and engineering dynamics too. And I, made a group of friends and we all would study together and we would work through homeworks together. And I think that has been like the biggest part that has been able to get me through those more challenging courses, is working with others. And because you all have different ideas of how to go about problems and you all have different knowledges of different things. And another thing as well is go to office hours. They might be a little scary, and your professors might seem scary to you, but that's what they're there for, is to help you through those things, especially with homeworks and studying for exams. And I think that's, you know, also a big part is asking for help from either your professors or your peers.
Cool. Thank you, guys. I final question here. I'll pivot one more time. I just wanted to talk a little bit about grad school really quick. John, Luke, do you think going to grad school and earning that advanced level degree helped benefit your career? And a second part of that question, is it something that you would recommend a lot of undergraduates at least think about doing or consider doing? John, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely valuable. Like I said, I have a master's degree and a PhD, which I got while working here at NNL, and so that's an option. Most employers, large employers anyway, will provide you with tuition reimbursement to go and take advanced degree programs. And then, because you're more marketable when you're done, they'll pay you more to keep you. So I think it's, from a financial point of view, it's a great idea. And then from understanding the fundamentals, it's also a great idea. There's not very many things you'll learn in a master's degree program in mechanical engineering that you didn't have exposure to as an undergrad. But it's another time through it. It's at a little bit deeper and more concentrated view of a particular subset, and so that'll be valuable to you. Again, not necessarily because you're going to do exactly what you did for your master's degree or your PhD, degree as you progress in your career, but because you learn how to learn at that more more fundamental level.
Thank you. And Luke, just curious to know what your perspective would be on that question. Is it something that you think is worth that undergraduate students consider, and is it something that they should definitely do, or not? Just curious to know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I absolutely find it valuable. So I also have my master's degree. I took a little bit of a different approach, and I got my master's degree in analytics, which is kind of the confluence of machine learning and well, I guess the mixture of statistics and programming, which ends up being machine learning. Anyway, so being able to apply that to the fundamentals learned in my aeromech degree has been really useful. So whether you choose to take on a graduate degree in something new and expand your knowledge that way, or dive deep into a specific field of mechanical engineering, nuclear engineering, materials engineering, whatever the choice is, it's a good opportunity to continue broadening your knowledge and deepening your knowledge.
Awesome. And Katie, I know it's still a little early in the game for you. Is it something that is on your mind? Is that something that you would like to do right away after you graduate, or maybe wait a few years and then go back to school, or not do graduate level school at all? What are your plans? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm definitely looking into graduate school. I'm looking into getting my PhD. Um, it's kind of been on my mind even since I applied to school, mainly because I really like research and I found I really like it even more doing research right now. And I think I want to go maybe step away from engineering for a little bit. I'm looking into things like astrophysics and astronomy because I think that kind of stuff is super interesting. Um, but yeah, that's definitely been on my mind, and I'm looking into different schools, and I've been talking to some of the grad students that are in my research group, and yeah, I really want to continue doing research.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all for watching. I really appreciate you spending time to, meet and learn a little bit about who John, Luke, and Katie are. On behalf of Katie, John, and Luke, thank you for watching. My name is Bulos Abdallah. Get in touch with me, let me know, and we can go from there. Thank you all for watching.